Hello and welcome back to FiddleUP, and I'm sure you are terrified after hearing that tune. It's a beast. It's a big one for a beginner course, but there is a whole bunch of reasons why I wanted to do this one. It's actually a really good stretcher. If you're at that point where you're ready to get out of beginner and you're ready to get into intermediate level stuff, this is the perfect one to push you past where you thought you could be, and then when you get into intermediate, that's all going to feel really easy. And there's also, all that fourth finger stuff in the B part, changing strings. There's all this kind of stuff that is in this tune, and it's great things to get a handle on, like early on in your fiddling career. So that's why we're going to do this one. We're going to go through it nice and slow, and don't worry, it's going to be fun. It's going to be lots of challenging fun. I like tunes that are really hard. You might have noticed there's some hard tunes in this FiddleUP course, and hard tunes are great. You can, it might take you longer than you want to get them down, but then when you get them down, they're the most satisfying. So that's why we're going to dive into this big Strathspey. This tune is called The Walking of the Fauld. And so what that means, it's actually in Scots, and what that means is the waking of the sheep, the waking of the lambs, actually. So this is, having to do with sheep herding. And I think it has to do with the shepherd. There's all kinds of things that shepherds would do when the lambs were really young, like they would sleep out there at night so that wolves wouldn't come get them, or other beasts of prey, maybe other shepherds wouldn't come pick up the lambs. It was very important to keep them safe, especially in that early phase of life. So shepherds would often sleep out there, and spend a lot more time with the sheep out there. And this kind of whole tradition of specifically shepherd music that they would play out there amongst the lambs. So I feel like this falls into that category for sure. So we're going to start off. So this is our first Strathspey that we've done, I think. And this might seem like a beast of a Strathspey to start off with, but actually this is kind of an easy one. Strathspeys are tough. And so we've kind of skipped past the baby ones a little bit and got really into the meat and potatoes. And just in looking at all of the kind of core repertoire Strathspeys, this one doesn't have any triplets or things like that are really just for intermediate level. So this one is a stretcher for sure, but it's gonna be so great once you get the hang of it. So let's start off with the A part. We're in A minor here. So Scottish music in general, and Strathspeys in particular, have a lot of this short, long, long, short, short, long, long, short, da, 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 da. So Strathspeys were known as a crooked reel. There's even all kinds of jokes about how Strathspey is where a lot of great whiskey comes from as well. So there's kind of this myth around the Strathspey as being a crooked reel that comes from where all the whiskey comes from. Ha ha ha. So makes sense when you think about it. But I think that the Strathspey is kind of related to the Irish hornpipe a little bit. They're very similar, and Northern Irish Highlands are kind of like almost kind of hornpipey too. There's a lot of similarities. There's that long short thing, and also the triplet thing. Like I just feel like Strathspeys are like a Scottish hornpipe, the way the hornpipes are played in Ireland, and so I feel like that's kind of more related somehow. And maybe that's where it came from, who knows, way back in the mists of time. And so, but the way Scottish players and Cape Breton players play hornpipes is different than, so if you have a Scottish or a Cape Breton hornpipe, they're going to be played more like reels. They're going to have a little bit of a lilt to them, but not like in Ireland. In Ireland, it's that full-on long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short thing. Dee da dee da 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 da, like in the Boys of Blue Hill that we just did. But Strathspeys are not just long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. They're short, long, long, short, long, short, long, short. They're all combinations of short longs and long shorts. So The short, long shorts are known as the Scotch snap. So I'm sure you've heard of that before. If you've gotten into Scottish music at all. If you haven't heard of that before, that is kind of a 19th century term. They called it the Scotch snap because they used to call Scottish people the Scotch. English, mostly English people, I think, use that term. And it's one of those, Scotch is one of those terms that in Scotland, actually, you might not want to use. Like if you go there as a tourist, order a whiskey, don't order a Scotch. There's things like that where that term is a little touchy for some people. But this is actually the technical term of this Strathspey rhythm is called the Scotch snap, and that is just kind of stuck. So if anybody doesn't like that, I'm sorry, but that is what it's called technically. So in the spirit of education, I will let that go for today. So we have. So you'll get used to the short, long shorts and where they go. You just got to memorize them. It's one of those things where you're going to it's going to be very confusing at first and you're going to have trouble with it, but just stick with it. And the more you get these Strathspeys down, the more you'll feel how they go. It'll become more natural over time, but it's kind of like, learning vocabulary when you're learning a language. You just got to sit down and actually memorize all the things. So there's no kind of rule of thumb for which notes are short, long shorts, or how the rhythm goes. So yeah, you just got to get used to it. So here's the first phrase. So I'm just giving you an overview there. We're going to go over all of that. So I'm starting on my first finger on the D string. That is an E. So that's E, A, open A, and then B, first finger, and then open A again. And then we're hopping up to the G natural on your E string and lifting off to an E. Try that again. And then this is nice and easy. We're just starting on the D, third finger on the A string, and then down to the B, first finger on the A string, open A, and then down to the G on your D string, third finger, and then down to the first finger, E on your D string. And we've done that pattern a lot. There we go. So those two phrases together sound like this. One more time. So now we're on our E down on the D string here. We're going to hop up to the G, third finger on the D string here. So we're actually kind of repeat this phrase twice, which is nice and easy. So starting with your third finger on the D string or your G, open A, and then B, first finger on the A string, open A again, and then down to the D string again, and we'll 3, 1, open 1. So that's. One more time. So we're going to repeat that phrase twice. So I'm going to start at the beginning and show you how everything's shaping up so far. So from the very top of the A part we have. You see how that's working? So let's try that all together a little bit slower. So now we're moving on to the next part. So don't worry, that's a lot to bite off in one chunk. We're going to go through it slow. A nice little triplet there. So it's the same as you got your E on the D string here. Snap up to the A. And then A, 1, 2. So that's A, B, C. And then from there, so that's B, starting on the A string, on the first finger on the A string. So that's B, A, B, D. Open E. And then to the G natural, low 2. And then high A. So cycling back a little bit. Excellent. And now we've gotten to the last part here. So we're going to hop up to the 4th finger all the way at the top. Woo! So starting from your 4th finger at the top. So that's 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, open. One more time. And if you're having trouble reaching that 4th finger, just remember you need to bring your palm in. I would go back to the basic beginning section if you need some help on positioning. You want to make sure that your hand is really facing the back of the room so that when you go to reach that 4th finger, you have some support. If your 4th finger is having any trouble at all, if it's having trouble reaching, if it's collapsing, it has to do with your palm position. So you want to make sure that you're twisting your palm so that you can just put your 4th finger down where it's supposed to go. So there is a little, there's obviously a little bit of muscle control that you need to develop in your 4th finger, but in general, if you're having any structural problems, it's a hand position thing. So we have da, 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 da. And then going down to your 3rd finger on the A string. So that is just a 3 on the A string, open E, and then F sharp G. And then I'm going down to my A. So that is skippy. Scottish music is skippity-doo-dah. There's a lot of weird interval changes. So that's one of them. So we have this phrase so far. One more time. And then open A. It's just open A and then going down onto your D string, you're gonna go G, E, G, 3, 1, 3. Woo! Okay, so we made it through the A part. So let's go nice and slow through the whole thing so you can see how it's all arranged. We'll do a nice, very slow version. So do you see how that works? If you're struggling at this point, I would go back and listen a bunch. That is really going to be the key with this one, is just having it in your ear, because there is a lot going on in this tune. So if you're struggling with getting the notes, I would definitely make sure you have a solid handle on what this tune sounds like and can sing it before you actually try to dive into this tune. It's just going to make life a whole bunch easier. So let's try it all. We're going to do the whole thing with repeat. So there you go. I think so. I kind of was switching back and forth between playing and playing. So if you heard that, you're not losing your mind. It's just a little variation. It's very hard to keep little variations like that out once you've been playing them for a really long time. Like I've been playing this tune for a really long time. And that's not technically the way that part goes, but that's the way I've slid into over the years, or the way I heard it somewhere, you know, it's that kind of thing. So just so you know, if you're ever listening to a tune and you're finding it's changing, you know, every time through, that is totally normal for fiddle music. It shifts and changes all the time. With Celtic music, unlike you know, old time and bluegrass, where you have just sort of flat out solo parts where you can improvise, there's a lot of improvising within the tune, just like there is in bluegrass and old time. But people kind of don't associate Celtic music with improvising so much, and that's totally wrong. There's improvising all over the place. It's more, I like the term stylizing. We spend a lot more time stylizing the tune, which is this kind of light improv all the way through. But it's a lot more subtle than you would see in bluegrass, for instance. So moving on to part B, we have... Okay, so we'll get into that hoppy, skippy, jumpy octave thing. Again, this happens a lot in Scottish music, so this is a good boot camp. We're getting into Scottish music. All right, I'm gonna play it like that. I'm gonna play it like that. There's a few different ways to play this tune, and I think I have just changed my mind on how we're gonna do this. So continuing on, again, this happens all the time. I'm not just being annoying. Well, I am being annoying, but this is kind of part of the deal with fiddle music, is there's gonna be little variations. So starting on your open A, going up to the top A, am I doing? That's what I'm trying to play. See, here's the problem when you have all these different ways to do things. You have to decide what you're doing and then stick to it and then remember things, and that's hard. Ready? So we're gonna start from the open A to the top A. So there we go. So you can add that little trill on the fourth finger if you're feeling brave. So A, B, A, G, A, and that's all just up on the top of the E string here. So going to from open A to high A. And then we have 4-3-2 or B, A, G. And then open E down to the D on the A string and open up to the open A again. Open E, sorry. So make sure we're clear on that first part. It's actually easier to sing da 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 da. Nice and easy. And then we have this octave jumps of death here. So luckily, or maybe unluckily, it happens twice. So we're going to start on your G on the E string up here, second finger. So that's G up to the A, back down to the G, up to the B. And then down to your, not your low G, your middle G on the D string, third finger. So we've done that a lot. That's G, A, B on the A string, and then down to the G. So we're going to go back and forth between those two things a couple of times. So if you're losing it a little bit there, don't worry. This is really hard, and that's why we're doing it. So we have top G here. Now lift your bow up just a little bit and then place it down onto that G on the bottom. That's going to help this all go a lot smoother if you're just kind of placing. Because doing a big skip like that where you're actually skipping over the A string entirely, that's going to get a little muddy. So you want to actually get a little bit low in your bow and try to be intentional, and this will really work your hand. All right, so far in the B part, we have this. Okay, there we go. And now we have that's why I was getting confused. I was mixing up. I see what I was doing now. That is really easy to do, even for people who play this tune a zillion and a half times. I haven't played this tune in a really long time, so it might be why I had a little brain freeze there. But so when the first phrase and the third phrase are very similar, you can kind of get away with. This is one of those tunes where you can kind of get away with interchanging things a little bit. So that's why that happened, because You can actually get away with playing either thing. Even if I was playing with somebody else who's playing the real version, it probably you wouldn't notice it too much. So the third phrase is, so we're going to go from the open A to top A. And then, so do you see the difference between the first phrase? And now we're varying it a little bit, just a little tiny bit. Okay, so open A to high A. And then open E down to the D on your A string. And then snap up to the G natural. And then A, G, A. Okay, and luckily we already know the last part. Woof! So that is the whole B part. If you're struggling with this, don't worry. This is a bit of a struggle. This is a big tune for a beginner course. But really, once you get this tune kind of even halfway there, you're going to have all of these great little nuggets that you can take into other Strathspeys. And the other Strathspeys are going to feel nice and easy. And once you get a handle on your triplets, you're going to be on fire with Strathspeys. Really, there's all kinds of great stuff in here. So let's try the whole A part very slowly. There we go. So now we have the whole tune. So let's start from the A part. And the B part goes. Okay, good luck, my friend. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and... And there we have it, and I hear some birds chirping outside. That was nice timing. So let's take this tune up to the next level. Let's take up the speed a little bit. And from here, so there isn't gonna be a whole lot of ornamentation. The Strathspeys are all about the feel. There's ornamentation peppered in, but you know, you gotta really be quick with it. So the first thing you wanna focus on is getting the tune up to dance tempo. So if you're doing this sort of long Scottish country dance tempo, it would be. So you get, you know, a chance for those long steps to happen. If you were going to play this for Cape Breton style or step dancing, it would sound like this. So that's very fast. So they're both hard for different reasons. I think the Scottish country dance sort of, you know, East Coast of Scotland style is, you know, requires a little bit more legato muscles, I guess. And the other one is just, fast, fast, fast. So in terms of those two styles, those are two very different styles. And the first style is kind of considered a little bit more aristocratic and a little bit more classical influenced. So you have more time to do trills and vibrato than you do in the second version, which is gonna be just, you know, trying to get the tempo down and throwing some warbles in here and there. But mostly it's gonna be more attacky, so you're gonna be kind of throwing more pipe ornamentation in rather than it sounding more kind of violin-esque. And then, so for that slow version for the B part, so, you know, just adding, you know, keep it pretty, I would say, you know, kind of just make sure your bow tone is really nice. Having some, as opposed to the second style, the kind of Cape Breton or West Coast of Scotland style, which would be. Kind of getting into the grit of the fiddle there. So yeah, we've got that, you know, we've got two different flavors here that we're kind of working with at the same time. So I'll talk about that fast Cape Breton style for a second, because I think that's good for you to know about at this point in your I'm sure you've heard some Cape Breton players play some really gritty Strathspeys. I hope you have. If you haven't, please go listen. So you want to kind of dig into the instrument a little bit more. I'll play this B part a little bit. So yeah, you're really kind of going for those gritty tones in there, going for speed. And that is because of the dancing. You know, you must serve the dancing when you're playing dance music. So that's what that's all about. So I hope you enjoy this tune as much as I do. This is a long video today, and I will see you in the next video.